making myself credible in your eyes again, and I'm going to do that by admitting that evolution is a lie!
God damn you, Mac!
Yes, please do, Mac.
Now, as you can see, this is the evolution meter, and I put God, the creator of everything, on the right side, and evolution on the left. I went ahead and put you guys all on the fence, because of course you're going to hear out my
Let's start where I would start.
No matter, I'm righteous. I'm not going to stand here, present some egghead scientific argument based on fact. I'm just a regular dude. I like to drink beer, you know, I love my family. Rock, flag, and eagle, right, Charlie? He's got a point.
No, he doesn't.
See, Charlie? These liberals are trying to assassinate my character. And I can't change their mind. I won't change my mind, because I don't have to. Because I'm an American. I won't change my mind on anything, regardless of the facts that are set out before me. I'm dug in, and I'll never change.
Mac, look, you're wasting our time. You're not going to get us to not believe in evolution.
And why is that?
Because the smartest scientists in the entire world all agree that it's real.
I'm glad you brought that up. Because, Mr. Reynolds, science is a liar sometimes.
Oh, boy.
This is Aristotle, thought to be the smartest man on the planet. He believed that the Earth was the center of the universe, and everybody believed him because he was so smart. Until another smartest guy came around, Galileo, and he disproved that theory, making Aristotle and everybody else on Earth look like a... Of course, Galileo then thought comets were an optical illusion, and there's no way that the moon could cause the ocean's tides. Everybody believed that because he was so smart. He was also wrong, making him and everyone else on Earth look like a again. And then, best of all, Sir Isaac Newton gets born and blows everybody's nips off with his big brains. Of course, he also thought he could turn metal into gold and died eating mercury, making him yet another stupid... Are you seeing a pattern?
No.
Mr. Reynolds, these were all the smartest scientists on the planet. Only problem is, they kept being wrong. Sometimes.
This is insane, you fool!
I'm a fool because I have more faith in the saints that wrote the Bible?
Yeah, because you just read the words of a bunch of guys that you never met, and you just take it on faith that everything they wrote was true.
And what makes you think what your scientists are writing is any more truer than my saints?
Because there are volumes of proven data, numbers, figures. There are fossil records.
Oh, fossil records. Ah! I didn't even think about the fossil records. I guess I'll concede. Oh, wait, one more thing before I do, Mr. Reynolds. Have you seen these fossil records?
Have I... Huh?
Have you poured through the data yourself? The numbers, the figures?
Well, no. No.
Oh, interesting. So let me get this straight, Mr. Reynolds. You get your information from a book, written by men you've never met. And you take their words as truth, based on a willingness to believe, a desire to accept, a leap of... dare I say it? Faith?
Come on. Look, I mean, I don't even know how I'm supposed to respond to that. Like, come on. That's a false equivalency.
Just answer the question, Mr. Reynolds.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
I rest my case.
Oh, that got me! Yeah, Frank, you want me to...
Put me over.
Yeah, all right.
What?
Well, we're going on the fence. I mean, that's a shadow of a doubt.
You actually don't believe in evolution anymore?
I don't know. He created a reasonable doubt. He makes you sound like a stupid science...
Of years, our planet has been inhabited by many different animals. Some of the species have survived to this day, but some unfortunately are considered to be extinct. However, this doesn't mean that we'll never have the opportunity to see a mammoth or scratch the ear of a saber-toothed tiger, because science is developing, and very soon, scientists will learn how to bring disappeared species back to life. Do you want to take a look at the future inhabitants of this Jurassic Park? Then let's get it on. Siberian unicorn. surely most of our viewers believe that unicorns don't actually exist. Well, let's get things straight. The fantastic idea of a beautiful white horse with a shining horn, that is really far from reality, because unicorns looked a little different. Okay, in fact this strange creature lives in Eurasia and is an ancient relative of the rhinoceros, and it really has one horn. Siberian unicorns, according to the latest information, died out just about 26,000 years ago. That is, they could well be the origin of legends about magical creatures with one horn. But the most important thing is that such young bones found by scientists give us a chance to revive the Siberian unicorn today. Truth be told, no one is working on the DNA isolation, but it seems that it won't be so difficult to return this unusual creature to our planet. Ground sloth. Looking at the bones of this creature, you might think that it's some prehistoric bear, but it actually is a sloth. A very, very big sloth. These creatures could reach a height of 6 meters and died out not so long ago, about 8,000 years. The last ground sloths lived in South America, and the natives often fought them. Most likely it was because of hunters that this lived in South America, and the natives often fought them. Most likely lived in South America, and the natives often fought them. Most lived in South America, and the natives often fought lived in South America, and the natives often fought them. Most likely it was because of hunters that this species ceased to exist. Sloths moved too slowly and couldn't hide somewhere in a tree, and therefore were an easy prey. But today, scientists have a huge amount of remains of these creatures, including bones and skin, and although it's not easy to extract DNA from them, it is still possible. The only problem is its relatives. Modern sloth females are too small to be the mums of these giants. However, in the future, scientists for certain will find out a solution. Mammoth. Of course, we can't talk about ancient animals coming back to life and not mention mammoths. In the end, when people think about extinct species, these fluffy elephants come to mind first. The remains of these ancient giants are found quite often, and in fairly good condition, so there is hope. Researchers will soon get the right genetic material. Several laboratories in different countries of the world are trying to isolate mammoth DNA. Most likely, the source of DNA for cloning will be the wool of these prehistoric animals, while the female African elephant will be suitable for the role of the future mother for the first mammoth of the 21st century. And in Yakutia, for the last 20 years, researchers have been preparing a house for this beast, restoring the vegetative diversity of the mammoth steppes. By the way, the extinction of mammoths also caused the disappearance of different plants in the north of the planet, and scientists hope that, with the return of the ancient animals, the rich prehistoric flora will also return. Sabertoothed cat. Well, we had a sloth and a mammoth. Now to complete the set of characters from Ice Age, we just need a saber-toothed cat, or tiger. To be honest, when you see the impressive fangs of this ancient feline, you begin to wonder whether it's worth returning this species at all. However, for scientists, saber-toothed cats are reliable candidates for resurrection. First, they died out relatively recently, about 11,000 years ago, and secondly, their fossils are well preserved thanks to the frosty habitat. And the most important argument is that they're just great. Jokes aside, saber-toothed cats are considered one of the most interesting species that ever existed on the planet, although probably our ancestors wouldn't have understood our interest. In the ancient world, it was somehow not accepted to return to life the beings who try to eat you. Irish elk. Do you remember the elk of Thranduil from The Hobbit? Well, or a deer. People on the internet don't know for sure which kind of animal this mysterious beast is. However, the name is not as important as the fact that scientists will soon return these amazing animals to our planet. Well, maybe. Meet the Irish deer, an extinct cloven-hoofed mammal from the genus of the giant deer, who once existed on Earth. Yes, this isn't a product of the fantasy of Peter Jackson and his animators, but a real beast, albeit extinct. The Irish deer stands out for its large size and huge horns, which could reach 4 meters in scope. Needless to say, with such a luxurious design on the head, the deer simply couldn't live among the trees, and therefore became extinct when the forests began to expand to open spaces. Fortunately for scientists, it's not difficult to find the remains of this giant, just like its great-great-grandsons, the fallow deer. All this makes the Irish deer one of the first applicants in the queue for resurrection, so perhaps in a few years, each of us can feel a little bit like Thranduil. aurochs. This primitive wild bull, the progenitor of all species of modern cattle, inhabited the forest and steppes of the Eastern Hemisphere a long time ago. Sadly, it was declared extinct in 1627, all due to the destruction of its
You see how this bull is the progenitor? That's why Dr. Sebi said that eating the modern cow is not good for you, because you're eating a hybrid form of the original bull. Even though it fits biblical descriptions of food that you're allowed to eat, you're not eating it because you're eating a hybrid animal. This is the animal they was talking about. Eating that is more healthy than the hybrid alkaline animals we see today, especially the modern practices of growing cows in these big agriculture companies. So this is what the bull every cow came from. So when they talk about, like say the ark, when Noah built the ark and he brought the animals, we seem to think that he brought every cow, every snake, every bird, every this, every that. But what he did was he got the ancestor of every animal. And after all these animals came about through breeding and our breeding practices.
Natural habitat and constant hunting. Despite the fact that this animal hasn't existed for almost 400 years, the DNA structure of its descendants is considered similar to the genetic basis of the ancestor. There were attempts to bring back this giant bull to life in Germany and
You guys may think that what is he showing us this for? But you gotta realize how much is being put into DNA. When I was a baby, when I was young, they were talking about already DNA and cloning sheep, making two-headed sheeps, right? Now this is what, 40 years, over 40 years they've been doing these research. Look what they're doing. Now let's watch what this becomes. Watch.
the 1920s and 30s, and as a result, a breed called
And also plays upon the part how they kill off animals, and plants, but they're not really worried because they can bring these plants and animals back.
Heck cattle was born. Nevertheless, heck cattle were less similar to an auroch than many modern breeds of cows, and therefore a new project.
And as you can see, when they remade this cow, it wasn't exactly like it, and it didn't live up to it. And as we can see with all of these plants, when they hybridize or they genetically mutate, they sell us the thing where it's gonna be better for us. But no matter what, as soon as they hybridize or genetically mutate anything, whether it's an animal or a plant, the outcome is no longer sufficient, as healthy as the progenitor.
To revive the species appeared in the Netherlands, the auroch program. Scientists crossed primitive breeds of European cattle among themselves, trying to get an animal that, in its appearance, size, and behavior, will be similar to an auroch.
You see how everything they do is to destroy the creator's creation, to toil with what has been created, to change genetically down to microscopic. They want to change the code of everything that has been written perfect.
Another project is being implemented in Poland. Scientists from the Polish Association for the Reproduction of Aurochs intend to use the DNA preserved in bones from archaeological finds for cloning. In general, it's quite possible that soon there will be several variants of modern aurochs living. Dodo. The dodo bird, known to many from the book Alice in Wonderland, lived only in one place on Earth, the island of Mauritius, located east of Madagascar. In 1598 it was discovered and described by a Dutch expedition, and by 1662 the dodo practically disappeared. No ice age, no problems with the environment. The thing is that these birds couldn't fly at all, because they didn't have any enemies in their natural habitat. The funny-looking dodos became an easy prey for sailors, and soon disappeared completely. Later they became a symbol of the Jurel Wildlife Conservation Trust. A dodo statue can be seen at the entrance of their wildlife park. Fortunately, at the disposal of scientists today, there are skeletons of these birds, which means that hopefully they will return. Gastric brooding frog. To bring an extinct animal back to life, it must be cloned, and for this, scientists need to find the most intact DNA. Therefore, those species that disappeared not so long ago have an advantage. For example, the gastric brooding frog. This species of amphibians was known for the fact that the mother hatched the eggs inside her stomach until the frogs themselves jumped out from her mouth. Yeah, like some sort of weird kangaroo. Unfortunately, for unknown reasons, gastric brooding frogs were extinct in the mid-1980s. Some blame the bad ecology in the area, and others point to natural causes within the population. We're unlikely to find out what exactly happened to the gastric brooding frog, but in the 70s, scientists froze samples of their tissues, which are now being used to resurrect the animal, and we can say that they have had some success by creating several embryos, although it's too early to speak about the return of this unusual frog. Well, science doesn't rush, and when it comes to bringing an animal back to life, you need patience. Stellas sea cow. This incredibly large marine animal, 8 meters long and 6 meters in diameter, was discovered in 1741 by the expedition of Vitus Bering on the Commander Islands. However, by 1768, all these unusual creatures were completely destroyed due to the actions of hunters. Scientists believe that if Stellas cow survived to the present era, it could become the first domesticated marine animal. It was a true peace-loving creature, and perhaps we will soon see it again, because geneticists have enough suitable material for DNA extraction. For example, the ultra-modern cloning laboratory located in Yakutia is actually working on it. Woolly rhinoceros. Yes, mammoths were not the only big fluffy animals that lived in the frosty tundra of the Pleistocene period. The woolly rhinoceroses roamed in the Arctic snow 10,000 years ago. Thanks to their thick fur, they felt good, even in severe frosts, but they couldn't survive climate change and the encounters with other animals. Ancient people also were a problem to the woolly rhinos, and as a result, these unusual animals died out. But their remains are perfectly preserved, which means that scientists can fully isolate their DNA. It's only a matter of time and money, really. And the modern Sumatran rhinoceros, the closest relative, will most likely become the bearer of the embryo of the woolly giant. Neanderthal. No, it's not a joke. Today, scientists really say that Neanderthals, the Neanderthal. Neanderthal. No, it's not Neanderthal. Neanderthal. No, it's Neanderthal. No, it's not Neanderthal. No, it's Neanderthal. No, it's not a joke. Today, scientists really say that Neanderthals, the ancient people, extinct about 40,000 years ago, can return to our planet. The project for the revival of the Neanderthal is perhaps the most interesting on our list, although it is quite controversial from the ethical point of view, but it has already been proved that the Neanderthal man is not the ancestor of modern sapiens, so geneticists literally have a
Are you sure? Because, like it says in Genesis 6, they came down and had relations with the daughters of men, and this came from them, which we would consider Neanderthal. That's why they say, oh, we all go back to a woman a woman, because we all share the genetic link through the female, because their forefathers went through a lot of women, and they created these hybrid people we call mankind. And the original people that they went into would be considered man and mankind.
Chance to give birth to a new intelligent being. However, according to scientists, such an incredible scientific study is possible only theoretically. We have no suitable equipment, nor the skills to do it, not yet, at least. But German scientists from the Max Planck Institute are going to start working on a miniature Neanderthal brain. This, of course, doesn't mean that the result in the literal sense of the word.
They're bringing back their forefathers. Isn't that what they're doing? What's up with the specific type of animals that they're trying to bring back? And their forefather, the Neanderthal. We think the Neanderthal was stupid, but when you look at scientists, they'll tell you that the Neanderthal was intelligent, was highly intelligent. His descendants today retain that ability of intelligence. They are also very intelligent.
The word will look like a brain. Scientists plan to implant Neanderthal genes in the human genome, and all this will occur inside the stem cell. The experiment.
Now they want to implant it in the human genome. Are they trying to hide the fact that they already have Neanderthal DNA in the human genome? Are they trying to create something else? Why would they bring back the Neanderthal? Most of you do not know that that's their ancestor. Genesis 6.
Experiment may seem strange, but it will allow geneticists to find out the differences between the thinking processes of the Neanderthals and the Cro-Magnons. Who knows? Maybe this will bring us.
They know the thought pattern. They know that they were overly aggressive, that they're highly intelligent.
Closer to cloning our ancestors. Hey, stop being lazy. It's time to use that brain of yours. Welcome to Brain Time. Incredible facts from the past, the present, and even the future.
It's a different story of creation. There is a forbidden book, lost for centuries, that includes fallen angels, bloodthirsty giants, and a warning to all humanity. It is an ancient writing filled with divine secrets, dreams, and visions. A tour of heaven and hell, guided by the angel Uriel. The Book of Enoch is named for the man who the Holy Bible says walked with God.
Enoch walked with God after the birth of Methuselah 300 years, and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with God, then he was no more because God took him.
The Book of Enoch is named for a man who's mentioned in one sentence in the book of Genesis. We only know one sentence worth of information about him, and yet somebody stopped, paused on that name, and thought, Enoch. If he was taken up into heaven, what might he have seen?
It is a daunting manuscript. 5 volumes containing 108 chapters. For many ancient Christians, the Book of Enoch was essential. Yet it was banned from the Christian Bible.
We don't know why this literature was ultimately excluded from the canon. Perhaps it's because of its description of the fall of the rebel angels and their mating with mortals. Perhaps its understanding of the end of time fell out of favor with Jews and Christians.
The Book of Enoch begins with a warning to all humanity that a divine judgment has been rendered and a sentence will be imposed. God tells Enoch that all life on earth will be destroyed in a violent flood. And, as with the story in Genesis, God blames this evil on the sons of God, angels who lusted after the daughters of men.
These angels are sometimes referred to as watchers. They keep constant watch. And they decide one day, about 200 of them, that they're going to descend to the earth. They would like to very much make contact with these mortal women.
The Book of Enoch may have been an attempt to expand on the mysterious giants, the sons of God, and the daughters of the earth, spoken of in Genesis.
Anytime you read the book of Genesis, there are all kinds of unanswered questions. Suddenly, there is this quick few verses at the beginning of the flood story about giants in a land that come from the sons of God mixing with the daughters of the earth. And you stop and think, wait a minute, what's this all about? It's like it went by too fast. And you want to grab it and say, wait a minute, what was this?
The Book of Enoch offers a disturbing vision of the fall of the angels who lust after earthly women.
And they began to go into them and to defile themselves with them, and they taught them charms and enchantments, and they became pregnant, and they bare great giants whose height was 3,000 ells. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind.
That these angels have crossed over this boundary that they shouldn't have. They were spiritual beings and they were to remain as such. When they decided to descend upon earth, this unleashed upon the earth all sorts of problems. Not only these giants who are bloodthirsty and violent, but also these angels went on to teach humankind a variety of forbidden crafts. They also taught human beings how to make weapons of war.
Now, the good angels, the ones not tempted by these beautiful women, go to God and say, you know, there's a lot of bloodshed caused by these bad angels. At which point God says we need to bind Azazel, the sort of lead fallen angel, to bind him and to then cast him into a pit. We might think of this as how do we take care of nuclear waste in the 21st century. You take it out to a part of the world where no one lives, and you bury it as deep as you can. For this community, the angel was like that sort of nuclear waste. Dangerous, volatile.
After the rebel angels are cast into the depths of the earth, Enoch has a dream vision. The lead angel, Azazel, begs Enoch to plead their case before God, to petition the Almighty to release them from the depths of the earth. The request for clemency is denied.
This version of the fall of the angels was very popular in its day and maintained popularity for centuries to come. When we look at Dante's work on the Inferno, it's largely out of the material in Enoch. When we look at various snips of the New Testament, Enoch seems to be in play. In Corinthians, when Paul talks about women covering their hair so the angels won't be seduced and tempted, it goes back to the fallen angels tradition.
Another episode tells of Uriel, a powerful angel in charge of the stars, who becomes Enoch's guide through the heavenly realms.
Uriel's name, in fact, means God is my light. And whenever he is described, frequently in relation to God, he is situated to the east of God's throne. This is very interesting. Of course, the sun rises to the east. So this gets us thinking, Uriel, a figure associated with light, perhaps associated in some way with the sun, or the stars, or the idea of these heavenly bodies.
Neanderthals and modern humans, Homo sapiens, have shared a long and intertwined history. We split from a common ancestor around 700,000 years ago, spent some time apart, but then hooked back up again before the Neanderthals died out around 40,000 years ago. Even though they're gone, a part of them lives on. Their DNA. History together, early humans had occasional dalliances with Neanderthals. Our species were similar enough that the resulting offspring with Neanderthals. Our species were similar with Neanderthals. Our species were similar enough that the resulting offspring were still fertile. And so that history is still within us today. Scientists estimate that for many of us, about 2% of our DNA is from Neanderthals. And it's not just sitting there.
Now remember, they tell us, they teach us that, oh, Neanderthals, when they have mate with humans or man, that they're no longer fertile because of the differences in the genome. But scientists tell you today that no. Once, hey, Neanderthal and man mate, then yeah, the child is very fertile. And they're going to tell you that they're the Neanderthal. They're the descendants of the Neanderthal.
They're doing nothing. A paper out this week in the journal Cell shows that those bits of Neanderthal DNA can control how active your genes are. In some cases, it turns out your Neanderthal genes get turned on more, while in others, the Neanderthal versions get turned on less, especially in your brain and, if you have them, in your testicles. These findings reveal a new way that ancient interbreeding is still
So yeah, in your brain and your testicles. We think Neanderthal were dumb. Neanderthal are smart. What do the white people, they celebrate all the time on how intelligent they are, right? Well, if the other part is in your balls, then when these so-called white people with this Neanderthal DNA have sex with women and the Neanderthal DNA is in the balls, then that is passed on to the offspring. So if you're with a Neanderthal male, then your child is now a Neanderthal and not man. So now you're considered mankind and not man. You get what they did? And that's why when they so-called landed on the moon,